Clark Kellogg from CBS joins us. It's weird because these guys are younger than me, but the impact Georgetown had on a different generation. Do you remember what that was like when you first realized what John Thompson had with Patrick, the early 80s there?
I banged heads against Patrick in the Great Alaska Shootout.
Oh. As
a member of the Ohio State Buckeyes back in '82, Patrick was a freshman. We found a way to beat him by a point.
Was there any intimidation factor? So how old were you when you're playing Patrick?
I was a junior. Patrick was a freshman. When you get between those lines, Dan, it's hard to admit to being intimidated by anybody. And as a junior, I just don't know if there was any freshman, even if it was Patrick Ewing, that was going to intimidate me to where I would admit it.
Okay. Privately, you might.
On the inside, perhaps. But I would fake it until I make it.
Yeah, but people don't realize how great a basketball player you were at Ohio State. But when you're, facing these teams, younger players, sometimes you can think more about it than you need to instead of just going out there playing because there was Hoya paranoia. Like they were creating.
Oh, they were phenomenal.
Something.
And as a matter of fact, I left after my junior year in '82. Patrick went on to have his Hall of Fame career both in college and the pros. So as I watched those Georgetown teams and Coach Thompson in particular, in terms of what he represented, how they went about their work, and how successful they were, it was a source of pride for me as a young African-American man to see Coach Thompson doing what he was doing the way he was, and not only on the court, but really lifting his players up to appreciate and embrace education and how they carried themselves. And now I get the privilege of sitting next to Coach Thompson as part of the Westwood One coverage of the Final Four for the last few years. So full circle for me, but I remember those teams quite fondly from a distance. When I was up against them, I'm trying to beat them, but from a distance, great admiration and respect.
Did you play against Barkley in college?
Not in college. We banged heads when he was with the Sixers, and I was 2 years into my pro career. And I tell you this, Dan, I played a game against Charles Barkley and got the better of him. And the way the NBA schedule works, sometimes you play that same team within a week. And that after I had gotten the best of him in that first meeting, we met them again within 7 days, and he was waiting for me. He came at me so hard, I was double ice packed after the game.
Wait, why was he coming?
I think it was because he was a player that I was a player that he had looked up to somewhat because he was a couple years behind me. And I think that first meeting, maybe he was a little bit deer in the headlights. He's told me this story, so I'm sharing it from his perspective. So when he realized that I had gotten the best of him, I think he wanted a piece of me real bad the next time, and he put it on me pretty good.
You faced a young Michael Jordan, too.
Yeah, I did. And at that time, the Bulls and Pacers were actually fairly competitive. In other words, neither one of us were making the playoffs, and we always felt that we could beat them and they could beat us, and you could see his greatness even then at that point. He was young, a couple years behind me, but in many people's eyes, the greatest of all time. You just lost a fan there, I think.
Yeah, literally a fan.
Yeah, it's a real fan.
Yeah, a real fan. Do you have a Larry Bird story?
Yeah, it's similar to what happened with Barkley. Larry is from Indiana, went to Indiana State, played for the Celtics, and the only time we would really have a great crowd at Market Square Arena back in those days is when the Celtics or Lakers came in. And so we had kind of gotten the best of the Celtics in a prior meeting, and then we had that quick turnaround. And I wasn't the only guy guarding him, but he proceeded to give us 53. And told us about most of them as he was giving them out. So I do, that was probably the best memory I have of Bird. We beat him we handled him at Market Square, and then within a week, 10 days, we had to go to the famed Boston Garden, and he was waiting for us too.
But you're such a nice guy. Why would Larry talk trash to you?
I think Larry is a guy who does not discriminate when it comes to dealing with the opponent. No matter who you are or what you are, he's about taking you down and letting you know about it in the process. Subtly, smartly, but sharply. As a matter of fact, very few people realized that Larry did talk when he played. He was just so discreet with it that it was hard for the average fan to pick up on it.
One of my favorite stories. Well, there's so many great stories that you hear from these guys after the fact. Bird refused to acknowledge Dan Marley because Marley's a rookie, and he doesn't talk to rookies. So he says to Mark West what he's going to do to Marley,
right.
But he's not going to tell Marley because he's not worthy of my words because he's a rookie.
Classic Larry.
And I love that. And the Xavier McDaniel one where they call a timeout and he says, "Hey X, I'm gonna get the ball here and I'm gonna take a jumper and then we're gonna win the game." So Xavier McDaniel's looking at him like, all right, he just told me what they're going to do. Bird gets the ball, takes a shot, jumper, wins the game, and he goes, "I told you I was going to do that."
It's amazing when you can back it up as much as he did.
Okay. Is it fair? Can we have the conversation about LeBron and Michael Jordan?
Yeah, we can always have the conversation.
But
what direction do you want to go?
But can LeBron ever get above Michael Jordan?
Above?
Yeah.
I don't know if he can or not. In some people's minds, yes. In others, no. It's a wonderful debate. For me personally, I look at LeBron's size, athleticism, speed, skill, and he's on par, in my mind, as a basketball player.
Okay.
And even closing in on his iconic status as an influencer, an impactor for good. Much of what LeBron has done on the court, I think, is probably going to pale in comparison to the impact that he has on the lives of other people through his philanthropy, through his activism. I just think he's one of those special people that comes along every generation or so.
But is he a better all-around player than Jordan?
Well, I go back to something my dad told me before he passed. He talked about it all the time. He said, all things being equal, if you've got a guy who's a little bigger, usually he'll beat the smaller guy who's just as good. LeBron is 6'8", 2, whatever.
50,
and
60.
no extra.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's huge. I don't think there's anything athletically that Michael does or did better than LeBron. And in basketball parlance and skill set, you look at passing, ball handling, shooting, rebounding, leading. I mean, you can go down, you could list whatever criteria. You'd be hard-pressed to say, other than the championships, and this is not tennis or golf, there's a team component to winning championships. Not to disparage anything Michael did, but there's a team component. There are a lot of great players in a team sport that don't get rings but are champions. They aren't championship holders, but they're champions because of how they've competed, what their level of excellence has been over a period of time. So when you just look at basketball skill set passing, I give the nod to LeBron. Brilliant, genius passer, unparalleled outside of Bird, Rick Barry. Those are the only forwards I think of that see a frame ahead the way LeBron does. Shooting, probably Michael.
Better looking shot.
Yeah, but in terms of results, driving it, I mean, you go down the list, it's a great debate. And again, I defer to my late dad. Good big over good smaller if you have to choose.
So Kellogg has just said that LeBron is a better player than Michael Jordan.
No, I didn't.
Let's give it up to Clark Kellogg.
There you go, trying to squeeze in those dots. I was laying out a pathway for the debate, and then all of a sudden you got me to a destination that I wasn't going to. I'm just putting it out there, Dad.
Okay. My bad. I think Patrick, did you hear what Clark just said?
Their own opinion, and LeBron is a great player.
But doesn't it sound like he took LeBron over Michael?
He did.
No!
He did.
See?
He did.
Confirmed by Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing. All right.
But there's one thing that Michael has over him, and that's that killer instinct.
Yeah.
LeBron is a great player. You can't take anything away from him. He's achieved everything that he's want to achieve with the basketball. He can do a lot of different things. Like you said, he is, for a person his size to be able to do the things that he can do is remarkable. He can pass, he can shoot, he can see a frame ahead, he can fly in the air and do all the things that he can do. And for a player who plays the center position, I would love to be able to play with a player like him because he's going to give me the ball.
Michael's not.
Michael's not going to. Michael's going to shoot it. But, you know, Michael has that killer instinct, and I think that LeBron he's learned it over the years. Mm-hmm. He's learned it over the years.
Yeah.
We'll get to more from Patrick coming up here. By the way, he wore his Georgetown uniform that he played in. That if you're watching or not watching on TV, Patrick came with his Georgetown uniform on. Those were the really short shorts back then.
Oh, yeah. Those were high pants.
Yeah.
Those were high pants.
Yeah. But now they're coming back. All right, here's the question for you, Clark Kellogg. If Loyola wins the national title, historically, how are we going to treat this?
Oh, it'll be one of the great stories in the history of the tournament.
But what's a bigger, better story?
In terms of historically?
Well, Texas El Paso to me is a bigger story, a different story, but
different, but
more
because
impactful.
of the significance and because of the social impact and actually the 63 Loyola Ramblers team was a bit of a forerunner to the Texas Western squad. 4 African-American players, starting Jerry Harkness, who has Pacers history and who I've gotten to know over the years because of my relationship with the Pacers franchise. That, too, historic. And you tie in the Texas Western upset over Kentucky. So I think in some ways the social significance different, clearly different because of the landscape and the times and the issues. But in terms of magnitude of journey, you'd be hard-pressed to put any other tournaments, the Georgetown of '85 perhaps, but even that one would be different than this one. So I would say outside of those 63, 66, be hard-pressed to come up with one that would top it beyond those two.
I still think people misidentify the Villanova upset of Georgetown as the greatest upset, because Villanova was a whole lot better than people thought, and the fact that they had played Georgetown twice and played them close, I believe, in both of those games during the regular season, they played a perfect game, but I don't think Villanova was that far beneath Georgetown as a complete team.
No, I agree, but Loyola is not that far behind these teams in the Final Four either.
I think that they can stand up to Michigan right now.
I think that's a different discussion.
Yes.
But in terms of how they did it, when they did it, who they did it against, that Villanova upset is still monumental because 90% or more of the folks thought they had no chance.
Yeah.
Those even in basketball circles knew that the familiarity would help them. But I would guess that if you took a survey of the coaches during that time or those in the know, it would have still been an overwhelming tilt towards Georgetown prevailing. So I think that still rates as one of the great upsets, clearly, in the tournament's history.
Are you a minister?
I am an ambassador for Christ.
Okay, but
No, I'm not ordained as a minister.
It feels like you.
But because I've given my life.
This is your flock right here. I mean, they're like.
I'm not a minister, but I'm always representing who lives inside of me, and that's Jesus Christ through our faith. So that comes out, hopefully.
Oh, no, I can hear it.
Hopefully that comes out in my conversation
and, by the way,
in how I treat people.
Ease up on the handshake, though.
Oh, what happened? What do you mean?
Ease up a little bit. Like, get a little lighter.
A little lighter?
Yeah,
I'll
Paul.
take your counsel.
Just a little lighter there. Yeah, Paul.
Dan, I just wanted to make sure.
That's my shooting hand.
To make sure
that's my shooting
I was
hand.
With you, Dan.
I'd rather give a little dap next time.
Okay, we'll pound it up. We'll pound it up.
I went like this.
We'll pound it up.
My hand's in ice right back here. Yes, Paul.
Clark got me too. He went Adrian Peterson in my hand.
Yeah, Adrian Peterson can hurt you.
Well, if you ever spent time around the late, great Mel Daniels, another iconic player with the Indiana Pacers, if you didn't go in there strong, you wouldn't get out.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just carrying that with me.
How about I just wave to you when you
Okay,
leave? I'm not going
wave or pound,
Yeah,
it's
I'll
fine.
just pound.
Acknowledgement is what we're trying to get done.
Clark Kellogg from CBS in Westwood One. Always great to see you.
Thank you, Dan.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.